may just want to stand up. We don't want you to leave the room because we want to get started again right away. But if you want to just stand and stretch, sit back down, because as soon as Don gets up here, we're getting started. All right, Don's up. You ready? Now you got to sit down again. Thank you.
$25. All right. This gives me a great pleasure because growing up, Don was a member of the 1978 and 79 national championship teams for the University of Alabama, also known as the goal line stand against Penn State. He also played for the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl 17 and 19. He is an All-American. He is a champion for MS. And in 2015, he was awarded a champion of MS by MS Views and News. Would also like to say that in 2008, he was a member of the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Don McNeal.
Hello. 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 I like people to talk back to me, so hello. Hello. I'm not going to sing. I'll just say hello. We got to do that, though, okay? Okay. Well, I'm so glad to be here. This young man that was sitting here, Roy, you talking about that MS hug? Yeah, I just hold it. You talking about that MS hug? Man, I had that MS hug one day. I've had that MS hug. Man, I thought it was my wife hugging me. And it wasn't that. Somebody told me I had the MS hug. And, you know, it's something else. But you know what? God will be with you and you'll be okay. And that young lady that was sitting right there, there you are. You touched me. You really touched me. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. It really is. But I am so glad to be here today, and hopefully I can say some things to encourage you, because I want to really encourage you. My man said I had just 25 minutes. Hopefully I can get through what I got to say in less than that. But, you know, Stuart is, man, he's just, we drove up together. And Stuart, I don't know about Stuart, but he's my partner. He really is. You're right. But you know what? Before I get started, I want to tell you guys a little story. You know, Paul in the Bible, this guy came up to Paul one day. He said, Paul, I'm going to go to heaven when I die. And Paul said, yeah, you probably will. Hopefully you will. And Paul said, before you go to heaven, because you will, before you do that, I want to send you on a trip. I'm going to send you to hell. And I want you to just tell me how it was when you was there, and tell me how you liked it. He said, okay, I'll do that. So the person got on the elevator, and he went down and down and down and all the way down, going to hell. All of a sudden, the door opened up, and this person got out. And this was supposed to be hell. He said, man, I got there, and he saw all these people that was in hell, and they was having a great time. They was drinking a pina colada and all that stuff. They're having a great time. And then went on around, and he saw all this green grass. People were playing golf, and it was just, everything was fantastic. I said, man, he said, great. Then he went around the corner, and he saw this guy in this red suit. Had horns on his head, but he was so nice too. And this guy said, man, won't you come on back, okay? He said, well, you know what, I might come back. But I got to go back and tell my person that told me to come here what I think of this place. So This person got on the elevator, and he went back up and up and up and up and up and up, and then he got on the floor. And Paul was there to meet him. And he said, Paul told this young man, he said, tell me how did you like the trip that you just went on? This guy said, man, that was one of the greatest trips I've ever went to. When I went to hell, it was fantastic. You know what? I want to go back. He said, you want to go back? He said, yes, I want to go back to hell. The guy said, you really want to go back to hell? Now, you know, you go back to hell, you have to stay there forever. He said, well, you know what? I want to go back to hell. So this guy got on the elevator, and he went back to hell. He went down and down and down and down. And as he was getting closer and closer, he smelled things that wasn't so nice to smell. And the elevator opened up, and then he looked out, and he saw all this green stuff that was all burned up. The golf course that he saw before, the golf course was destroyed, and he went around the corner. He saw all this people that was being abused and tough things and things that he didn't like. And then a guy went around the corner, and he saw this guy in this red suit with this fish fork in his hand and all that. And he said, hey, man, what happened to this beautiful place? What happened to this beautiful place? The guy in the red suit said, hey, yesterday was a dream, but today it's reality. See, that's the way life is with a lot of people. I have a lot of dreams, and things are not like they're supposed to be. But you know what? I got a person, my Lord and Savior is a person for me. Because without him in my life, I'm nothing. But see, with him in my life, I'm already successful. See, he told me that I can do anything except fail. I can't fail because I have him in my life. And that young lady that was sitting there, man, she just encouraged me, you know. I know she has MS, but you know what? She just encouraged me to go on and be the best that I can be. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to do that. So, when I was a little boy, when I was about 6 years old, I had something very, very bad happen in my life. I lost my mom. Hope I don't cry. I lost my mom. The best person in my life, I lost her. And I was 6 years old when she died. And it hurt me to the core. But the reason why I was able to make it, the reason why that I can stand here today and talk to you guys about it, is because I had a very good support system. I had my father. I thought my father was the meanest person in the world. But you know what I found out? That my father loved me. And he wasn't the meanest person in the world. He wanted me to do the right things. And I found out that I was a bad little bitty boy. That's why I got punished all the time. But see, I found out that my father loved me tremendously. And my father wanted me to have the best things in life. And he wanted me to treat people like I wanted to be treated. And see, my father instilled it in my life. 6-year-old kid, and I lost my mom. Can you imagine losing your mother at 6 years old? Hey, man, I did that. That happened to me. But see, the reason why I made it, because I had great support system in my life. See, I have 6 sisters, and I have 4 of the brothers. 10 of us, 11 of us. Forget about this other guy, kid. But it's 11 of us. And I know the reason why we made it because we stuck together. And see, I had this thing in life that I knew that I made it because of that, and that was that four-letter word, love. I found out love hided a lot of things in life. So you know what you got? A lot of people need is love, and that's what it's all about. And that's what it's all about. Then my life goes on when I was 6 years old, and I got a little older, and I played 2 years of high school football. I didn't play Pee Wee League and Pony League and all those type of leagues because my father didn't allow that. I had to come home in the evening. I had to slop the pigs. Anybody know about slopping pigs? I had to slop pigs. I had to get the corn in and cut the wood, and I had to make a fire in a wood stove and all those things. Because see, I grew up in a house. I didn't have central air. We had to heat our home with a fireplace, and that was it. But you know what? I had that fourth letter word in my family. I had love. But like I say, I had the opportunity to play 2 years of high school football, and it was great. Had opportunity after I played my 2 years of high school football, had opportunity to go to the University of Alabama. Before I went to the University of Alabama, I had somebody from Auburn ask me to come and play for them. I forgot about that. The people from Auburn, they came to me and said, Don, we want you to come and play for Auburn University. I said, you know what? I want to go and play for Auburn University. I'll do that. If you give my party here a scholarship, we'll come and star there. They said, well, we can't give this guy a scholarship. I cannot do that. And I said, you know what? I'll just keep my options open. And I did that. Several weeks later, I had an opportunity to be introduced to Coach Bear Bryant. He had an opportunity. Coach Bear Bryant came and spoke to my banquet in my hometown. Had an opportunity to see him, and he sent a recruiter down there to recruit me, and I went to the University of Alabama, and had a great time there, guys. It was fantastic. Had an opportunity to play in two Sugar Bowls. It was 4 Sugar Bowls, but we had an opportunity to play there in Sugar Bowl 1984, 19 one of those Sugar Bowls that was in the 70s. I had the opportunity to play for them. 78 Sugar Bowl and 74 Sugar Bowl. Had the opportunity to play there. In the 78 Sugar Bowl, 78 Sugar Bowl, had the opportunity to play there. And guys, you know what happened? Had the opportunity to play in the Sugar Bowl against Penn State. Had the opportunity to stop this guy on the 1-yard line. And his name was Scott Fiskey. They threw the ball to Scott Fiskey, and I had the opportunity to tackle him out of bounds. And it was great for me, guys. Everything was fantastic. After that, I went on the next year. We won the national championship again, and everything was fine. I was on the upside of my career, having a great time. But in 1980, I got drafted for the Miami Dolphins, and everything was great. Had an opportunity to play in Super Bowl 17. I forget what year that is, but had an opportunity to play in Super Bowl 17. And I'm in the particular Super Bowl, and they gave the ball to this guy named John Riggins. They gave the ball to John Riggins, and all I had to do was just make the tackle and put John Riggins on the ground. That didn't happen. John Riggins ran through my arms. Okay. John Riggins ran over me, okay? And guys and ladies, girls and boys, I was devastated. I was devastated. After that game, I had reporters come to me and said, Don McNeal, Coach Schuler's going to cut you. Don McNeal, you ain't about nothing. Don McNeal, you let Miami down. What are you going to do now? See, if I didn't have my relationship with God, my relationship with Jesus Christ, you know what I would have done? I would have went that night and drank me some alcohol, smoked me some drugs, and did all those things that I shouldn't have done, but I'm so glad I didn't. And I could hear my dad talk to me, and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ talk to me. He said, Don, you can do what you want to do, but you know what? Remember. He said, remember this. He said, remember, your life is not your life anymore. You can't do what you want to do. You represent me. You represent your family. Now, you can go out and do what you want to do, but you know what? Think again. And I thought that thing again, and I didn't. I went on and I guess I swallowed the bullet because I read all those news clippings and all that about me, how I missed the tackle, and yes, I missed the tackle, and it wasn't great. So you know, I found out in my life, you know what? There are going to be times that I'm going to be very successful. There's going to be times that I'm not going to be successful. In college, I was very successful. But in the pros and Super Bowl 17, I wasn't successful. But so what are you going to do? Hey, you got to realize that, hey, life is tough. And you got to deal with it. And I found out that my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ helped me to deal with all these things, the negative and the positive. If I can handle those things, my life is going to be fine. So see, that's going to happen to you guys. I have this thing called, I have MS right now. I have MS. You know that. And guys and girls, I get so discouraged because of that MS. I can't walk like I want to walk. I can't talk like I want to talk. I can't move like I want to move. But you know what? I told God, I said, listen, this is not my life anymore. This is your life. Take my life and help me to be who you want me to be. Because my life is not my life anymore. My life is your life. You got to do what you got to do with it. And that's what I'm all about today. I had the opportunity to play for the University of Alabama. I had the opportunity to play for the Miami Dolphins. I had the opportunity to do all those things. Had a great mom, had a great dad, great sisters and brothers. And I got great friends in the world. But you know what? I wouldn't take anything for my journey now. I wouldn't take anything for what I've gone through. Because I'm a better person because of that. I have MS, and a lot of you people out there have MS, and a lot of you people have things that maybe you don't, maybe it's unfair for you, but you know what? You can make it. I want to let you know you can make it. Hey, if I can make it, you can make it. That girl right there that was saying that stuff, she just encouraged me tremendously to go on and be the person that I got to be. And I want to let you guys know, hey, you can make it. You can do anything that you want to do. But you know what? You can't give up. You cannot fail, because God is on your side, and without him in my life, in your life, I know in my life, I'm nothing. But see, with him in my life, I'm totally successful. With him, I'm okay. Without him, I can't do anything. And you know what? That's my life. That's who I am. And you know what? It's great. It really is great. Now, does anybody have any question you want to ask me about anything? You want to ask me about anything? Do what now? Are the Alabama Crimson Tide going to win it again this year? That's what you asking me? You know what? we have won it so much in the past. This is what I said the other day. You know what? Y'all take a year off. But you know what? That's probably not going to happen. They're probably winning again this year. They probably will. Anybody else? Yes, right here.
Hold on a minute.
When was I? Okay.
Let me get the question on the tape.
Okay.
When were you diagnosed with MS?
When was I diagnosed with MS? I was diagnosed with MS in 2001. 2001. So it's been a while now. 16 years I've been diagnosed with MS, and it's tough disease. But you know what? I can make it. You know, I'm walking now. I can talk pretty good, and so I'm okay. You're right. Shut up.
Right here, Don.
Shut up.
When you first got diagnosed, did you go into a deep depression stage?
Oh, yes, I got depressed too. I remember being with some of my dolphin friends, and they all found out about it, and I got so depressed. And I did cry because I didn't want this to happen to me, and it did. But you know what? Hey, that's life, and I can deal with that. That's right, okay?
What treatment are you on?
Beg your pardon?
What treatment are you on?
I'm taking Copaxone. And it's been pretty good for me. I've enjoyed it. It's not that difficult, and I like it, Copaxone.
How long did you have symptoms before you were diagnosed? Was it a very long time?
I think I had it for about a year and a half. I was running one day and having a great time just running, and all of a sudden I fell down. I said, bam. I said, man, I'm clumsy. And I got up and I started run again, and I was running, and then I fell again, bam. I said, man, what's wrong with me? Then I running again, and all of a sudden I fell again. I said, you know what, I better go and get checked out. So I went to the doctor, and it took about 6 months to diagnose that I had MS. Sure did. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I want to know how many more talks you're going to be doing around in the state of Alabama.
That's up to you.
Good answer. Good answer.
That's up to you. But hey, I have enjoyed being here this week, and you know, it's great. God is on the throne, and like you know, when I have MS, I'm forgetful, and sometimes I don't know where I lose my place and all that. But you know what? Hey, He said in His Word, "The greater is He that is in me than he that is in this world." He said, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." So you know what? One more. I got one more question. Yes.
How can someone get in contact with you to get you to come and speak to a group?
And talk to me? Okay. Well, you can probably go to Stewart. And before I go, you can probably get my phone number, my significant phone number and all that. I'd love to come and talk with you. I really would. Anybody else?
By the way, for anybody that doesn't know, at the very end, after Dr. Rimmer speaks, Don will be available outside if any of you want your photograph with him, okay? Don likes to do that. He smiles really good, too.
Shut up. Okay, I've enjoyed being here today, and I want you guys to be encouraged because, see, that's what life is all about. Got to be encouraged, okay? Remember, you're an overcomer. Know that. You can overcome anything that you're facing. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.
Next up, we have Dr. Jim Rimmer. And Dr. Rimmer is with Lakeshore Therapy, right? UAB, and you're going to come up here. Sure. And Dr. Rimmer is a motivational speaker. I got to hear him when I was at the Tanner health centers, healthcare program that they did in January. And when I came into town just to hear their program, and I got to hear Dr. Rimmer speak, and I was like, wow, I've got to have this guy, because this guy's got a message for a lot of you. He's got a lot of great information to give to you, and he's got 35 minutes now to give it to you all, and let's get started.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. First of all, let me sort of set the record straight. I don't think I'm a motivational speaker, but I'll try my best to give you a perspective of what I think is really an important part of how you need to lead your life or live your life, and this is from personal experience as well as a scientist who has been studying research on mindfulness and health and wellness. What I'm going to hopefully share with you is something that I've recently developed called My Scorecard. And the purpose of the card is really to begin to put your life in perspective by ensuring that in a 24-hour period across the day, you're not in what I call a negative emotional state or any kind of bitterness or negativity that can actually cause significant physiological and neurological changes. So in this very brief amount of time that I have with you, I want to just share a couple of things. One is about 20 years ago, my niece was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I remember standing in DeKalb, Illinois, where I lived at the time, and having my sister tell me on the phone that she just was hospitalized for 3 months with a very severe exacerbation. They had thought it was multiple sclerosis, but they didn't find out until I had her diagnosed at New York University. And she was in the middle of a law school in downtown Greenwich Village at New York University, one of the best law schools in the country. And she lost part of her vision. She has something called nystagmus, which is associated with optic neuritis. So she had to go through that journey. Fortunately, there was the Americans with Disabilities Act, so they actually gave her all of her textbooks, which are these big used law books, on tape. And she listened to the tapes and was able to get through the boards, pass the exam, and then she became a lawyer. And then, of course, when she became a lawyer in one of these Fortune 500 companies, she had about a $180,000 school bill that she was trying to pay off. And the law firm actually ended up firing her because she has to take medication once a month, where she's completely wiped out on the weekends. And so just missing a day in one of these Fortune 500 law firms in downtown Manhattan, you know, sort of they figured out a way to get rid of her by sending her off to Europe for a few months, and then coming back, she had no job. So she ended up in Poland or Yugoslavia, and then when she got back, the job was gone. So, you know, she's been in and out of jobs, and so there's a real personal attachment to people who have multiple sclerosis, because my goddaughter and niece has it. And of course, she's going through the journey just like you are, many in the room. But really, today's presentation is more about bringing this up to a higher level of what I've been referring to as the first part of my scorecard. The M stands for mindfulness. And I think we often forget as human beings that there's a bigger eternal presence in our lives that we're going to end up going to in the very near future. You know, when you think about the world, and if you talk to people who are in physics and the cosmos, you know, the galaxies are staggering. You know, we think about, you know, we have a moon and we have stars and we have sun, but there's this whole thing called galactica, which is even beyond what we can actually see through astronomy. So if you just imagine how big, you know, the world is, you know, and how small we are with respect to that, you get a better understanding that there must be another purpose to why we're here for a very, very tiny fraction of time. You know, most people, if they're lucky, will live between 70 and 90 years of age, and yet the world is millions of years old. So when you start to think of that big perspective, and you start to think of the galaxies, you know, just think of from here to the moon is 186,000 miles, and then from the moon to the sun, you know, when you shoot a beam of light, it takes 7 days to get to the sun. And then when you start to talk about galaxies beyond the sun and other suns, which have been proven to exist, it really starts to bring us back to, you know, how significant is my condition today? And what can I do to take my condition, my health concern that I have today, and put it into a greater perspective? So mindfulness is all about staying in something that I refer to as consciousness. And consciousness is where the most important thing I can leave you with today is to stop thinking too much. Because people who overthink end up usually thinking about negative things. It's very hard to think about things and be positive all the time, which I believe is why some of the religions go through these different chants, or you get into Catholicism, they talk about the rosaries. It's all about trying to stay out of the mind, which creates a lot of health problems, physical and psychological. So mindfulness is all about staying in consciousness. It's something that I learned about in 2008 when my daughter had a nervous breakdown. She was going to school and she was hospitalized, and the therapist gave her a book called The Power of Now, which was written by Eckhart Tolle. And instead of her reading it, I read it and became suddenly a more mindful person, understanding the value and the importance of life and trying to stay out of negativity and worry, which many of us are in. So mindfulness is all about understanding the now and not worrying of what's going to come. And if you read many of the Zen traditions, you know, Buddhism and Zen and different types of philosophies, what you often notice is that when people get into trouble, it's when they worry about what's going to happen to them, or they think constantly about the past. So very important it's not an easy task, but it's a very simple suggestion, and that is to stay in the now and deal with the present moment, because that's all you ever have. And very often when you think about the future, and I don't know if this is like you, but I'll often get up, and even when things are going really well, I often think about things that could go wrong that never happen. So we can't predict the future, so we shouldn't even try, because every time we try to predict the future, we suffer a loss of the present, which then creates more problems because we are constantly worrying about things that could happen to us. So we got to get out of the body. You know, the body is not the essence of what our life is. And if you think of a lake, for example, you know, this beautiful, very bucolic environment where you've got this very gentle lake, really our bodies is just the surface of the lake. But deep in the water is where our true essence is. And when we take that true essence and we bring it to the surface, what we end up finding is that we all have the same common needs, and that we all are one body and one spirit and one mind. So very important to consider us as a group in this room and as part of an eternal spirit that will grow and lead us to a much better place than we currently are at. So that's the M for my scorecard. So that's mindfulness. The second part of mindfulness is what we refer to as your spirit. And when you think about the spirit, you know, we often use the words like God and Buddha and Muhammad as in negative ways, because what many people, sadly enough, have done with religion is they have driven, sadly, their ego through the middle of what we really need, which is spirituality. So religions have a tendency to start to compare their religion to other religions, and then they start to criticize other religions. And then instead of just having one individual ego, you have this collective ego of this group which says, my religion is better than somebody else's religion. And if you look at history, how many people have been killed over religion, over denying God or accepting a different God or trying to advocate for their own God? We have had millions and millions of people in our society murdered and killed by every church, every Muslim nation. It could be church, it could be Christianity. People have a tendency to take religion and use it in the wrong way. So today what I'm talking about is not religion, but if you really want to sort of, move yourself away from multiple sclerosis for a moment, move yourself away from worrying about things that could potentially happen to you, because that's going to happen to all of us. All of us are in the same situation. At some point, it's ashes to ashes, dust to dust, right? I'm no different. That's the direction I'm heading. I've got a few more years on this earth. I got to figure out how to get to eternity, right? Because I came from nothing, I'm going back to nothing. I got to figure out that this physical consciousness of the body is really not the spirit, that the spirit is really lying in what we refer to as space consciousness. So the four things that I've often thought about is you first have to have peace of mind, right? And peace of mind means you can't be thinking about things all the time that are going to create negative thought patterns. Once you get through the peace of mind, that leads to a sense of joy where you can now feel, okay, this is not as bad as I think. Yes, I don't feel good today. Yes, the medications have affected me. But to get to joy, you have to have peace of mind. And to get to peace of mind means two things. Do not think of the past and do not worry about the future. Stay right in this moment on the razor's edge of the now. And I promise you, you will never have anything to worry about for the rest of your life. If you can stay on that razor's edge of the now, every single scientific study that has done anything with meditation and mindfulness and now will show you that you will live a very happy life, a very comforting life, if you could stay in the now. So that creates peace. Peace leads to joy. Joy leads to the very third part of it, love. You know, maybe many people, sadly, they try to find someone else to love them because of their ego. You know, so they go out and they say, oh, I'm going to marry this person because they love me and they're going to do things for me. And when you hear people say that, what you really have to understand is that every form of happiness has an equal and opposite side of sadness or disappointment. So you see these very happy marriages, right? And all over the news magazines and the color magazines in the stores. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, what's happening? Somebody has an affair. Somebody gets divorced. You know, somebody gets remarried. So, you know, we're constantly trying to find other people to make us happy. And that's just totally, it's just the wrong approach. You don't look for other people to make you happy. You look in your own mind and you begin with peace. And if you can get to a level of peace where you're not thinking then all the time about thinking about this is going to happen and that's going to happen, but thinking about peace of what the present moment brings now. Most of the time, the present moment is not so bad, is it? I mean, right now you're in the present moment. Is this really bad? Are you suffering at this moment? No. The only times we really, really suffer is when we think about the past or we think about the future. Yeah, you could be in pain on a certain day, but even that could be a portal to mindfulness. Even that pain can be a portal to spirituality. And even that pain can be a portal to eternity. So the real goal here for all of us today is to think about mindfulness and the power of consciousness and not be thinking about who can I find in this world to take care of me, but what can you do to give back to others, even with a condition, even when you have a health condition. You have the responsibility, like all of us, right? Because we are all one body and one mind, to give back to other people. And every time you give back through the community, through individuals, or just being positive to your spouse or your loved one or somebody who's in your space, you will become much richer in terms of the way you are treated, because most people don't realize this very scientific, well-proven psychology point, which is outflow equals inflow. Let me say it again because that's an important statement. Outflow equals inflow. In other words, if all you're doing is giving negativity out in your environment, pessimism, negativity, sarcasm, then that's what you're going to get back. So if you think positively, and if you start to embrace the concept of outflow, and you make that outflow more positive, you're going to get many, many more benefits in return. And even if you don't, it may take a while, and I've done this with my 2 daughters. I've raised 2 girls, one is 33 and the other's 30, and it used to be one of these dad versus daughter type things, you know. Dad wants you to do this. They want an explanation as to why, and I said, you don't need, there's no reason you need an explanation. I'm your father, do it. Because I was not in mindfulness. I was not in the power of now. I was not in consciousness. I was not worried about their needs. I was worried about my ego, right? I'm the father. I control you. When I tell you to do something, you do it. That's power. Man, that's a lot of power. Boy, that feels really good, doesn't it? You know, you got your, that's what I call, you know, a dad with a really tight ego that wants that power and that control and that dominance over another human being. And when we start to think about how we take that to the next level, that's how you end up with wars. That's how you end up with places like Syria, people are completely out of mindfulness, right? There's a power of the ego. And the collective ego is, we're going to dominate. We're going to control this country, and they end up doing very destructive things. So very important to keep that in mind. Now, a couple of simple things to do to stay in the now is one of them is exercise. And why is exercise so important for staying in the now? Well, because when you exercise, you break those negative thought patterns. So no longer, and I don't know how many of you do this, but I've had a few incidences at work now. And during the day, I'm completely fine. I can stay in consciousness. It doesn't bother me that much. But somehow or other, it seeps into my mind at night. And I'll sometimes wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'll be really, really worried. And I'll say, wow, where did that come from? Where in the world is this from? This is not the end of the world. It's okay if somebody doesn't like me. It's okay if, there's some major issue in my life that I'm going to have to walk through or go through. Last night I got a letter from the IRS asking me, they were questioning all these receipts I had for the travel that I had done in 2013. So I paid $500 for an accountant to send them all this stuff to Philadelphia. And then they sent me a note back and they said, there's so much stuff in here to go through. Can we have an extension? So I said, sure. I have nothing to hide. Here's an extension. So I gave him an extension. And that was about 2 months ago. Then I got a letter yesterday. They said, well, this is so confusing. We want to do it in person. So we're going to call you back up. We're going to find somebody in Birmingham to actually go through your papers and try to figure this out together. So you get, first thing you do is you get stressed. Oh my God, do I owe money? I'm going to owe thousands. And then I just sat back and I said, wait a second. If I'm going to go out tomorrow and present something on the importance of being positive and staying in the now and being conscious, then I can't be a hypocrite and then go back and do what I'm telling you not to do, right? So then I just kind of got into that calm state, went back into the now and said, when they call me to set up the appointment, we'll go ahead and do it. So exercise for me is a great relief because I go out there, I can express myself through walking or running or jogging or weightlifting, and it takes my mind off of these negative mind patterns which often take me down a river that I can't get out of. So it can be overbearing at times. So exercise is very important. And then the A in scorecard, towards the end of the scorecard, I have something called activity quality. And this is really, really important to think about. What do you do? Most of us sleep about 7 to 8 hours a day. So I have to ask you a question. What do you do in that 17-hour period that is giving back to other people? What do you do in that 17-hour period that you would consider to be a real positive behavior? And what do you do in that 17-hour period that could be a real negative behavior? And I would challenge you to keep track of that during the day to see, how often you're worrying, how often are you being critical or negative to your family member, your loved ones? How often are you calling someone that you haven't spoken to for a while? How often do you smile? Smiling has tremendous physiological benefits. It changes the whole brain chemistry. Even when you don't feel well, the research literature shows that if you just smile, you actually change the physiology of your brain. So how many smiles have you given to anybody? How many hellos have you said into the community? And this could be when you're feeling really, really good or you're really not feeling good. So very, very important to think about every minute of the day in this very short period of time that we have left on this earth. We have to use it for the most important purpose, which is the future, right, is eternity. And eternity doesn't come later. Eternity is here. So when you pass and I pass, it's not me that's passing. It's the shell of the lake that passes, which is just the form which you see in front of you. But my spirit goes on forever and ever, and that's eternal. That goes on, and it never ends. And where it ends up going, or is it around us now? My mother just passed away 2 months ago. Is she here in this room? Is there some presence? I often feel her around me. I often speak to her when I'm out running. That's the essence of life. So again, most important point of this whole discussion is anytime you get into that mind pattern of worrying about, I have MS and it's really starting to take a toll on me. Remember, it's not taking a toll on you, the essence. It may be taking a toll on your body, but life in general, will take a toll on everyone's body, right? The form is ultimately going to die. You know, the most attractive people in the world that you see on TV are not going to be that attractive in a few years. They're not going to be the popular magazine. They're not going to be the popular show. And you know who some of the people are. I'm not going to name names, but you go through the channels and you see all these beautiful people. And you get sad. You say, why can't I be like her or him? Or why couldn't I have been a great athlete? Or why couldn't I have been this? All that whining is putting you out of the now. This is you, but your body is not you. Your body is part of an eternal framework which puts us all together. Now, if you cannot understand that, all you got to do is get into the literature, into the physics, the cosmology, the philosophy, the spirituality. All of the literature basically says one thing, and that is that we are all collectively one group having to work together in order for the greater good. And if we do that, then we're never going to get depressed. No matter how bad our multiple sclerosis gets, it's not us. This body is not I. This is just a very, very tiny structure of what you have inside your mind and what your purpose in life is. And what is your purpose in life? You know, many people ask me, I say, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't work anymore. You know, I've got to take this medication once a month. Oh, Uncle Jimmy, I wish I could, be a great lawyer, but I can't physically do it anymore. I'm so sad. I got a great degree from New York University and I can't work. I can't do an 8-hour day and make a boss happy. I'm so sad. And what I try to tell Jennifer is think about not the sadness of the physical body. Think about eternity, your spirit inside of you, which has no blemish on it. Once you pull that out and you keep it in the now, you're just like everyone else. So don't worry that you can't work full time. Don't worry that you can't live in Manhattan like you used to. Now you have to live out in Queens because the rent is cheaper. Stop worrying about the future and start living in the present. Today, you are going to interact with 3 or 4 people at the store, at the doctor's office. Give them a smile, show your positivity, and bring out your spirit because she's a wonderful person. But when she gets bogged down with this disease, this disability, she just goes into this depth of despair that she can't get out of. So we all feel that way, with and without a condition. But it's so important for us to stay out of our minds, stop thinking about this, and start living. And one of the best ways to live is to be a positive person, even when you're feeling bad. Some people, you think about egos only being the people who have all the money or all the fame or all the looks. No, there are people who have conditions who have big egos, and they almost create this center around them of me, me, me. I have multiple sclerosis. It's all about me. And they forget it's not about you. It's about the whole. And that what you give, right? We just talked about that earlier. Outflow equals inflow. So how do you stay positive when you really feel lousy? How do you begin to think about being a joyful person? And as I described earlier, you got to start with peace of the mind. You've got to figure out a way to get into your mind, which the mind is like the quadriceps muscle. The mind is just a muscle that is used to do a lot of things like crossword puzzles, tying your shoe, reading a fancy book. That's what the mind is all about. It's a tool. But don't let that tool turn into you and then turn into some self-destructive mind pattern that creates a cancer around the people you're with. Think about it as this is going to affect me, this condition, but I'm going to show that internally I can still be positive around other people. And when you begin to think about that, just like I said earlier, if you start smiling more often, it changes the chemistry of the brain. So if you start to think more about elements of just being in consciousness. And when you say consciousness, what does that mean? Consciousness basically means you're not thinking about the past and you're not worrying about the future. It's challenging, but once you begin to do that, you start to reach the sense of peace. Peace leads to joy. Joy leads to love, and love leads to the sacred, which is where we're ending up. So peace, joy, love, and the sacred. And as I mentioned earlier, you can't start with love. It doesn't work that way. People say, well, I'm in love. No, there's no such thing. If you love everybody in this room. You love everybody out on the street. You love the man who cuts you off. What did Jesus say? Jesus said, love your enemies. And what does that mean? It means have no enemies, right? Because how can you love an enemy? So it's basically saying you don't have enemies, right? You have people who do things because they have that shell that wants that ego to control you. So absorb it. The best martial arts people in the world are not ones that are, when all of a sudden they have somebody attacking them, what do? They don't attack them back and have this collision. They absorb their criticism. They absorb their leg or their momentum, and they bring it in. And by absorbing that, you don't have this tremendous reaction, which causes a very, very cancerous, destructive chemistry in a family unit. So you have a responsibility today, and that responsibility is to make the world a better place and to put you less inside the circle and more on the outside of the circle. To be a really good person, right, and to live your life with essence, you must begin to think about what you can do for other people. And again, that's also proven in the literature. Altruism creates much more happiness than any other tool you can possibly do. So again, outflow equals inflow. If you're positive, even when you feel bad, then you're going to get positive on the inflow side. And finally, the last thing that we need to think about is this whole thing of self-compassion. And self-compassion is really, how do we keep us together as a human race? How do we begin to think about the importance of we're all in this together, and therefore we have to understand that certain things that we do are going to have an impact on everybody else around it. Just like if you throw a rock into a very gentle stream or a lake, that rock sends ripples across the water. So even when you're in your mind pattern where your health is so bad that it's overwhelming you, in the same way that sometimes I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning worried about having this meeting because I know it's not going to be a very positive outcome, even when you get into those mind patterns, if you can pull yourself back and say, okay, I'm not going down that river. I'm going to figure out a way to get through this mind pattern, this structure, which often leads to nothing. Then at the end of that, you will have what we refer to as peace, which will then lead to joy. So I think it's very important that as you begin to think about your life, please separate it from your life situation. Could you do me that favor? Because your life is underneath your life situation. Your life situation is you have multiple sclerosis. Okay, great. People have lots of things. People have very destructive lives, and they have other things that are really great that don't last. But if you think about your life situation as temporary, right? Because the form is going to dissolve. Your form is going to dissolve just like mine. But what's left is the sacred. And the sacred has to be created by controlling the mind. And the test that we're all being put through is how do we control the mind so we can get to a level of peace, which then gives us joy and love. And what is love? Love is the eternal. Some people call it God, other people call it consciousness, other people call it enlightenment. But it all means the same thing. Once you get out of your mind and you stay in the now and you stay within consciousness, you then lead a life where multiple sclerosis on a scale of 1 to 10 doesn't even rate. It's not even there. It's like, who cares? This is not me. And this is not where I need to go in order to lead a life, a productive life, where I can share my happiness and my joy and my experiences with multiple sclerosis or being a family member with multiple sclerosis with other people. So in conclusion, you must promise me that you will do every possible thing you could possibly do to stay in the present moment. That's the number one. Please promise me to do that. Please teach yourself, like I have over the last 8 years, to not wallow in sorrow because you're worried about the future, which very often is just a guess. Nobody can predict the future. And if you stay there, you will start to self-destruct your thinking patterns, and they will become negative. And remember, negative outflow is going to create negative inflow. So try to get into a sense of peace. I'm not talking about happiness. Happiness is something separate. Happiness is you go to a great movie or somebody gives you a gift and you're happy. Happiness lasts about 30 seconds and it's over. So we're not talking about you leaving the room wanting to be happy. We're talking about you leaving the room with a sense of joy that makes you understand what's going on to your body that has nothing to do with your soul, with your spirit, and with eternity. That's what you got to learn. And does this come naturally? No, I'm going to leave here today. Many of you may forget what I said. That's fine. But I'm going to tell you one thing that I do every single day is I wake up in the morning and I do 5 minutes of meditation, getting myself focused on the now. And as long as I'm in the now, not thinking about what people have done to me or what's going to happen to me today, as long as I stay in that moment, I can put all of those moments together until this form ends and my eternal life begins. So I wish I could tell you more than that. It's basically a very simple message. I don't think I'm a motivational speaker. I don't care to be. But I just hope and pray for all of you that you understand how valuable and important you are to me and to the world and to whoever your eternal creator is. And so never think about the negative. Fight to stay out of pessimism. Be positive around your relationships. Deconstruct things before you overreact to what somebody says to you. And I promise you, peace will lead to joy. Joy will lead to love. And love will lead to the sacred. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Very good, very good. Anybody have any questions for Dr. Rimmer? Any questions? Well, then again, we just want to thank Dr. Rimmer for being here today. Thank you. Thank you. I thought that was great. I loved hearing about the in the now when I heard him in January. That was great. Please also, let's thank again Teva Neuroscience for giving us the funding to today's program. Thank you. And thank you again for coming here for today. We can't do these programs unless you're here, so I do thank you for coming.